Chapter 5, Mishnah 2. The Mishnah lists three categories of activities that are rabbinically prohibited on Shabbos and Yom Tov. Any activity that one is obligated to refrain from doing on Shabbos, whether it is A, an ordinary activity that is subject to rabbinic prohibition, B, an optional mitzvah that is subject to rabbinic prohibition, or C, an unconditional mitzvah that is subject to a rabbinic prohibition. Since one is obligated to refrain from doing it on Shabbos, one is obligated to refrain from doing it on Yom Tov as well. The Mishnah gives examples of the first category. These are ordinary activities that are subject to rabbinic prohibition. We may not climb a tree because one may break off a branch or fruit. We may not ride an animal because one might break off a branch to use as a whip. We may not swim on the water because one might build a raft. And we may not clap hands, slap thighs, or dance because these actions are often accompanied by music, so that they might lead to repairing a musical instrument. Examples of the second category. These are optional mitzvahs that are subject to a rabbinic prohibition. We may not judge a court case or perform kedushin, chalitza, or yibum. These activities, despite being mitzvahs, are prohibited on Shabbos and Yom Tov because they might lead to writing a record or marriage document. Examples of the third category. These are unconditional mitzvahs that are subject to rabbinic prohibition. We may not make something hekdesh, sacred to the temple. We may not make an erech vow, a vow to pay a person's value to the temple. And we may not make something harem, dedicated to the temple or the Kohanim. Since these actions involve transferring the ownership of money or an object to the temple or to the Kohanim, they resemble business transactions, which are forbidden on Shabbos and Yom Tov. And we may not separate Truma and Meiser from food because doing so makes the food fit to be eaten, and that resembles repairing a utensil, making it fit to be used. Although these acts are mitzvahs, they may not be performed on Shabbos and Yom Tov. Referring to all three categories the Mishnah teaches, the sages stated all these prohibitions in connection with Yom Tov, so they certainly apply on Shabbos, whose laws are stricter. The Mishnah concludes, there is no difference between Yom Tov and Shabbos except in regard to food preparation, for which malacha is allowed on Yom Tov, but not on Shabbos.